Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, there are more reactions from the just concluded Edo governorship elections. Ralph Obasugye joins us as a chieftain of the Labour Party. He joins us virtually from Benin. We also do have Reverend Ulu Martin, spokesperson for Edo PDP campaign, also joining us virtually. Gentlemen, good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program today.
Good morning, Chamberlain.
All right.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, let me start with you, Mr. Obasugye. Well, your candidate, 22,763 votes from the polls. I don't know if this was what, of course, everybody got in there hoping to win, but for you, was this a fair assessment of how the votes turned out?
No, Chamberlain, there is nothing that was fair on Saturday. Everywhere was calm, but there were skirmishes. It was a shambolic election because in my unit, where I was supposed to vote and just go away, I got there to meet the shenanigans going on. And there was a scuffle between PDP and PDP and the APC agents and coordinators, and that stopped voting momentarily. The PDP talk succeeded in chasing away the APC people, and within 10 minutes, the APC people came back reinforcements. There was a truce amongst them, and then voting continued. But I would like to let you know that it was a sad episode. There was no election. There was no security personnel. And as at the time I got there at 7 a.m., the ballot box was already half full. And I asked, when did these people vote? Because voting was supposed to start at about 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So why, as at 7 a.m., people had voted? There was no answer. And then the voting started, and I saw all the malpractices going on. Vote buying. Initially, they were paying 5,000. When the APC was paying people 5,000, PDP recouped and upped theirs to 10,000. And here we were as Labour Party. We don't have those resources, stolen state funds to be funding elections.
Did you see this yourself, that PDP paid 10,000 to the voters? I
was there. I have sent video clips. In short, my phone was seized when I wanted to start recording. I had to go get the help of FROC personnel opposite the polling unit, and they now helped me to retrieve my phone. I was ruffled up, they threatened me with everything, Young boys, mainly of PDP, they said they will waste me, they will deal with me, that I'm an old person, I should just vote and go. But I stood there to observe the whole thing.
These are PDP members?
Even when the Beavers did not accept or accredit people, they wanted them to vote, and I said no. I stood my ground, and that was what really led to them roughening me up and threatening to beat me up and so on and so forth. There was no security personnel for the entire day. And I made phone calls to all the other units that were around my area, my zone, no security personnel. So this was a prearranged orchestra. It was a drama that went on. It was not an election.
Wow.
And if INEC is what he thought, there should be a rerun.
All right, let me bring in Mr. Olumasis on this one. I mean, hearing this, lots of people are surprised. So PDP engaged in this. That means it was a survival of the fittest. So it wasn't just because I know that PDP did accuse APC, but now he says he was there and he witnessed this. What do you say to this?
Thank you, Chamberlain, for the opportunity. Again, is that you must understand that elections are conducted across, over 4,000 polling units. So your record of activities will be at best the record of activities that you recorded in your own polling unit. I voted in Ekpom, and I'm an Asian man, and I voted in Upanu Primary School. And where I voted, I didn't have any of such activities. Maybe where I concur with him is the fact that police presence, especially in terms of forestalling the breakdown of law and order, was ab initio absent in spite of the over 40,000 security personnel that were recruited. I did see in a couple of places money exchanging hands, which has almost become part of our norm. But I can confirm to you that in my polling unit where I voted, at least the people that I handled, that I was responsible for, there was none of them that I gave, financial incentives to. My father is the oldest person in that place, and we had also contributed our quota in terms of impacting young people there. But overall, I think that the election ran beneath, standards. Turn-up was still, less than 30%. And then the guarantees that we had, that we're supposed to have, from INEC, we did not get it. We're monitoring the IREV. So why employ technology if in the final analysis you are not going to depend on the results that came out from the IREV? Chamberlain, I can tell you that no election takes place at the collation center. All elections take place at the units. And the results of the election at the unit are filled in a form that is called the form EC8A. That form has the result of all of the elections that took place in the over 4,000 units. That form EC8A is snapped and uploaded, to the IREV. You will not expect that the results of form EC8A will be different from EC8B, because elections take place at the unit. So when we monitor the elections on the IREV, 90% of which had already been uploaded as at about 8 p.m. on the 21st of September, and everybody had drawn their own individual, independent conclusions at their different, polling, at their different situation rooms, until we heard that collation had been abandoned in some of the, local collation centers, in some of the wards, and in some of the local government, and they were moved, to the center where INEC is, where, all of the rest of the shenanigans, happened. Many of our agents were not allowed to monitor the collation of results.
I get the point you're making, because we've equally asked questions of observers about what to do about collation centers. But from what Mr. Basige is saying here, assuming PDP had won the elections, he says, look, you cannot claim to be a saint in this matter. It turned out that it was for the highest bidder, but the ruling party and your party engaged in those actions. That's what he suggested.
No, let me tell you something, Chamberlain. In every electoral process, people are not allowed to self-regulate. You can make allegations, but we have security agencies. There were units that EFCC went to, because all over the world, and not just in Nigeria, politicians do whatever they think is necessary. And I use the word politicians advisedly, because the political peculiarity in Eastern West local government, Unit 9, or Eastern West local government, Ward 7, Unit 9, is different from the peculiarity of another, local government. So, and then we have different individuals who have different relationships. Bottom line for me is the fact that people will do whatever it is necessary. And I told people before, I've advanced that Americans are some of the worst people, because human beings are human beings. What whips people in line is when the law works. You don't expect that people who want to secure power will use their common sense. So we expect security agencies. People will attempt to do vote trading. Do not forget that poverty has also been weaponized. So it is the responsibility. Human beings all over the world are tended to breaking the law. It is the responsibility of, that's why they are called law enforcement agencies. They are supposed to ensure that the shenanigans in your language do not find expression in each of the polling units. We're not in a lawless society. But if you see a situation where security agencies appear to be overtly taking sides with the all-progressive, Congress, to the detriment of every other political party, then you have reasons to be worried. That's my point.
Okay. Mr. Basige, go ahead.
Yes. I mean, Reverend Olu has already alluded to it. He has already agreed with the things. One thing I agree with him of is that situation in each different polling units may be different. But, as scientists, once the same phenomenon occurred in more than 60% of the polling units, you conclude in favor of the majority. When we did all our field reports, it was exactly the same thing that happened in my polling unit that happened in all of them. So it was the survival of the fittest, like you said, Chamberlain. They were competing and they were brazenly spending money. But that is not the saddest thing. The saddest thing is that hunger was weaponized. You understand? Hunger, because we Edo people, we used to say Edo is not Lagos. Edo people are always resolute, we are well educated, and we are steadfast. But on Saturday it failed because the country, APC, all of them, they have and PDP have impoverished the people. And I can tell you one phenomenon. I didn't see elders. I am well above 60 years of age. I didn't see people of my generation coming to vote. They were all kindergartens of between 20 to 35 years old, very unruly, all right? People that don't have principles. And because they were hungry, why did the elders not come? Many people, I asked some friends, why did not come and vote? They said, my brother, I couldn't buy fuel to come that distance to my polling unit. Others were like, even if I trekked, I can't get food to buy, so I didn't want to bother. Then the other ones, the majority said, our votes have never counted, therefore we didn't come out. But you could see the shameless thing. For instance, there were all indications that even the polling officers were already compromised, the police, because I don't want to blow my cover, but when he updated me, he said they arrived at that polling unit at about 6:15 a.m. and that the two policemen assigned to my unit actually came with the officers. And then he saw us trading. They were discussing, haggling. And the officer now said, no, 50K per person. And then suddenly they just walked away, walked towards the express and went away at about 6:30 a.m. And they never came back. Those were security personnel. So, and when you see the way the officers were going to accept voting car PVCs that could not be authenticated by the beavers, either by iris, the eye capture, or by fingerprint, and they were still going to allow them vote, which I resisted, which was what led to Olu's men trying to, Olu Martin's men trying to ruffle me up. You understand? You could then see that everything had been pre-planned. And when one person was able to speak to me in my mother's language, which is Olu Martin's language, all right, which I speak very well, he then told me that they ferried them from Oloboda money. PDP came to pick them in a box. And then the person, the PDP coordinator, had a batch of cards in his bag. He calls their neighbor, you don't come, take your card. The boy told me that the whole arrangement was made at the voters card review. That was when they made the arrangement. So it was already pre-planned, it was a rehearsed and well-chorused action, and now the giants are fighting themselves. Unfortunately, Labour Party, we have our principles, we've never been in government, we don't have resources. Even if we had, we will never bribe. Okay,
but Mr. Basoge, I mean, since I thought he knew what you were talking about, that's why, but since he said, look, he doesn't know what you mean by Olu's men, could you share some light on that?
I was just saying, because Olu belongs to PDP, I'm just using that metaphor.
That's generalization.
Listen, it's a collective generalization. You are a PDP man, and you are speaking for PDP. I'm speaking for MP.
Okay, so maybe members of PDP, as you think they are.
Members of PDP, more appropriate.
No, the coordinator had PDP badge. He had the agent had PDP badge. And instead of one agent, in that place, there were 3 PDP people with their badges.
Yeah, so
and they were really roughing me up. And they were the ones arranging it. I have sent clips. Before they seized my phone, I had already recorded, because it is normal to have canvassers. Each party can have canvassers. And the PDP canvasser did a good job of his assignment, okay? And they approached me. When they approached me with the 10,000, I said I need 100,000 because they didn't know whether I was a Labour Party or not. I said 100,000. They say, Then they now spoke to me on one line, that's too much. So they thought that I didn't board. They said, this man is a hungry man. And they continue with those on the queue behind me. It is sad what has happened. It was not an election. We have to have a new dialogue. Like I said, if INEC, because people are celebrating now, PDP was already celebrating before APC went to do their magic. In Akoko Edo, because like Olu Martin said, voter turnout in all areas, apart from Oredo, and it averaged 15%. There was a great voter party. There was also ethnicity, which I cannot quarrel with. All right. Now, in Akoko Edo, there were about 90.8% voter turnout. How did they do it? When you know the terrain of Akoko Edo, it is more difficult to move from village in Akoko Edo. There's even no transport. How did they get 90%? Because that was where APC went to play, and that was where they swung the figures and cooked everything. So it is a certain, like me on Saturday, I couldn't sleep. Because if Edo people could sell their conscience for a porridge of pot, it is very disappointing. But like I said, the two big parties weaponized hunger. And in all dialectics, if you were a student of social sciences and political science, like I was, you would then find out that when you then impoverish people, you subdue them, and then they now begin to play you.
Mr. Obasanjo, I just want to ask you, because this issue of vote buying was long foretold. When people were talking about analysis of the elections, pre-election analysis, and some of the things that they thought could be obstacles in a way, one of the things that came up alongside violence and, of course, the tense political atmosphere was the issue of vote buying. So it was something that even ordinary members of the electorate were already aware of. We've seen it in previous elections. This is nothing new. The question was now the scale in which it was going to happen, given the current economic realities. And this information was already out there. Is it that your party didn't have any strategy to forestall the outcome or whatever was going to happen from taking away their own votes?
Let me tell you, Mokwe. Our strategy, we were very organic in our ways. The party grew organically. Our campaign was very organic. It was only Olumide Akpata that went to all the nooks and crannies of this state. Go and check it. He went to all villages, all wards, met everybody, traditional rulers, the high and mighty, the low, and he spoke to them and he dialogued with them. And the support was overwhelming. What the result you are seeing is an opposite of the support we got in the streets. But there are other two things: the weapon of money and then intimidation. We don't have instruments of intimidation. It is the two parties that have instruments of intimidation. And in many polling units like Atidogbo and Ikpe and the rest, they chased away all our polling agents, intimidated them, and those people, out of fear, abandoned the polling units because they told them, and you can imagine threatening a woman who's a polling agent. And they all were reporting back. And we were calling on the police, they never came. For instance, if the two policemen that came in the morning in my polling unit remained there, I would have been able to complain to them and they would have intercepted the back of voters' card that the polling PDP polling agent was holding. But it was not there. So how do you get sanity? At my age, and with all the clouds, I was a senior technocrat. I was roughened up by these young boys of the PDP. And they said they would deal with me. So it was not a free and fair election.
Mr. Olumartin, it does appear that even though your party is totally unhappy with what the results that have come out of this election, they're not saints either. From the allegations of the spokesperson of the Labour Party right now, it does appear that you were simply outdone by the other political party. Is that the situation?
Yeah, no. Sorry, sir. I have the follow-up now, I was being asked.
No, sir, it's my question.
You're only being outdone when you are on the same pedestal, when you are spending money on eating.
Mr. Obasanjo, I'm afraid that question was actually for Mr. Olumartin, if you don't mind.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, thank you very much. It is first of all important to clarify that myself and Mr. Obasanjo do not vote in the same polling unit. We don't even vote in the same senatorial district. So I take particular exception to when he says Olumartin's voice. I do not think that we should personalize this discussion.
No, I thought we moved past that. So
no. You made an allegation.
I explained that because.
Sorry, sir. It is my responsibility to clarify. It's my responsibility to clarify. I must clarify because it's my name you are trying to rubbish and I should defend it.
Apologies. So let's move past that.
Nonetheless, I should make my explanations that we don't vote at the same polling unit. So if you make allegations and there's nobody's name that appears on ballot boxes, Labour Party is what we see, PDP is what we see, and APC. So it's better to direct whatever allegations you have to a structure. It's a structured election. It is not a personal election. And moreover, we don't vote at the same place. So I didn't think that comment was necessary. Nonetheless, your apology is noted. Again, Makwe, I constantly like to mention that the reason why we have regulatory agencies, in this particular instance, the police, is that you don't expect typical politicians, and I use the word typical advisedly. You don't expect them to self-regulate. Politics is a game of interest, both personal interest and the larger interest. So human beings will always be human beings. And the tendencies of human beings all over the world is to take advantage of lapses. That is why you have interventions by the law enforcement agencies that should make sure that some of the unlawful or some of the immoral tendencies that human beings exhibit is nipped in the bud because they are law enforcement agencies. It's not.
If you can, just 1 second, if you don't mind. Why shouldn't we expect adults in a civilized, organized process to self-regulate?
If we expect them to self-regulate, they will not have law enforcement agencies. I have had the opportunity to be live. So
essentially, you're saying then that that the essence, having laws in place is insignificant because there are processes, there are guidelines, there are laws that these politicians and political parties ought to follow. They ought to have modes in which they guide themselves into these elections so that we can instill confidence in the outcome. Isn't that the case?
There are laws against kidnapping. People still kidnap. There are laws against armed robbery. People still burgle people's houses, and
most certainly. And we have security agencies who are as you say. Just a second. We expect security agencies to ensure that there are no kidnappings. We expect that security agencies will ensure that there is no banditry, but we still have banditry and we still have kidnappings. So if you are comparing banditry and kidnapping with an electoral process that is popular, politicians are seen every day, I find it a little interesting. Don't you think it's interesting?
Okay, and let me even take it from your point. We have police presence in all of those polling units. Why do we have police presence in those polling units? If we expect human beings to self-regulate, we're talking about human behavior. That's why you have regulations. Even scripture is clear that because judgment against an evil act is not executed speedily, the heart of man is set to do evil. That's why you have law enforcement, even in institutions. You ensure that people come early. In channels, I'm sure that channels as an organization has an HR. Channels does not expect that every employee of Channels organization will behave normally. That's why you have punishment. There are punitive measures. Okay. Because if you have human beings,
I'm hoping that you expect that the laws
they will naturally misbehave.
Yeah, I expect that you would. I'm hoping, Mr. Olu-Martins, just a second, that you will ensure you are expecting that the law will take its course on any politicians that is found wanting. But Mr. Obasagi, let me just quickly ask you, just 1 second, because we are running out of time. Well, Mr. Obasagi, let me ask you, this is the result that has been declared by INEC, and everyone seems to have told a particular line about this. For the Labour Party, your party, what's the next line of action?
I cannot speak to that yet because we have leaders, I have my principal, I have a candidate. I think that would be, the next course of action would be articulated. But like you said, let me use your words from the studio. We self-regulated. We are law-abiding. We played by the rules. Okay? There's no one person or one organization that has a monopoly of violence. But we will not condescend to go and be sponsoring thugs and everything so that they can counter. If we had an army of thugs, then just imagine what would have happened in each polling unit. So when they were chasing out Labour Party agents, we obeyed, but we were the underdogs. And we think that, people who saw what happened, even monitoring agencies have mentioned it. It is a sad thing that happened. With all the dumb results in INEC and so on and so forth. Because I will let you know that subsequently, they burnt the ballot papers in my unit. So you ask yourself, which ballot papers did they present at the collation center? Which from EC8A that did they present? Because they burnt all. I sent the video.
We need to go at this point.
If they can show it. So it was just, there was no election at all. The two big parties were trying to outwit themselves. One has subdued the other. But if we want fairness, I think there should be a rerun.
We need to anchor at that point. Chief Ralph Obasagi,
for my leaders in LP.
We have to thank you for coming on this morning. He's the chieftain of the Labour Party, Reverend Olu-Martins, spokesperson, Edo PDP campaign. Thank you both for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, let's take a look at some messages. This one is from Yomi. He says, congratulations to Edo people. In the end, this is Nigeria. We must live doing what's right, not in a cold and boring way, but in a way that balances being wildly ethical with being absolutely wonderful. It is what it is. If you don't get it, what? Do you say that?
Yes, it is. If you don't get it, forget it.
Yeah.
And I don't get
I
it.
didn't see that coming.
I didn't get it, so I forget about it.
Exactly. You sucked in 5 minutes.
Oh dear. No, Festus, our regular here, is also writing in. He says, our many CSOs are highly political with partisan individuals. Sadly, that's where they get their funding from. They've never had anything good to say about our elections. It's easier for them to blame INEC and security agencies and leave out the politicians who are the main participants. Nigeria needs strong and resilient CSOs and not chancellors.
Let me look at the one by Nikki.
I wonder what informed that comment, though. Hey, go ahead.
It's a matter of time. Says, I'll say we've made little or no progress in our electoral processes and elections. That's from Nikki. As long as we continue to shy away from absolute electronic voting, we will never get it right with our elections. Let me also remind you that most of the riggings happen at the collation centers. Much more than vote buying at the polling units. However, these guys have found a way to divert our attention to polling unit riggings. Someone with the eye on the ball.
I want to read this last one from Professor Enakena. He says, unfortunately, both the political elite and the voters' persistence in manipulating the electoral process is deplorable and iniquitous. I like that word. The deliberate impoverishment of the citizens who are economically trapped, living below the poverty line, has led to the abdication of morals to reject financial inducements by political bandits and career criminals.
That happened to be second to the last one, actually. There's the one from Law. Pastor Law, he says, the protest that preceded the declaration of the APC candidate, Mr. Monday Pueblo, and the uneasy calm that pervaded Edo State give the impression that the people's mandate may have been tampered with.
Impression.
Okay, well, there you go. That is it today. We do thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chamberlain Asaf. Goodbye.
Thank you so much for watching. Please continue to keep us posted on your thoughts on the election so far. I'm Maupe Ogun Yusuf.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. It's a Monday morning. Have a productive week.